Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. We have a lot to talk about right now. But one thing you want to talk about, Green Bay, 15 times other teams were in the red area and they couldn't stop them. Washington goes in 3 crucial times, they stop them. Now, I'm not an English teacher, but I know one thing. It must be time to panic because must ain't don't sound right. We'll be back in a moment. Going out, I ask you a question. Is it time to panic? If you look at this team right now, we have high expectations. They haven't lived up to it. Now, one thing I can say before we get into the meat of this is the defense played a little bit better only because the defensive line played a little bit better. But my focus now is on the quarterback. This quarterback, everybody is saying he's young, he can't do this. 4 plays that he did the other day. And what I'm telling you, these are the 4 plays, not the only 4 plays he had bad. But the one where he dropped down and did not go into the end zone, I don't know what was happening right there. He got sacked and he fumbled. Then the next time he overthrew a wide open man, then he throws the interception in the end zone. You can't do that, Donna. He got to hurry up and start playing because they saying he's young, but he's in his 7th or 8th game.
Yeah, Tony, I have no excuses. They had every opportunity to pull out this game. They were in the red zone at least 6 or 7 times, and then one time they come away with nothing. Well, a few times they came away with nothing. But I mean, he played better as far as running because he had 95 yards. He was the leading rusher. But overall, his passes, when you look at his passes, he throws a lot of high balls. He's going to get some of the receivers killed. And Coach Rivera talked about his mechanics being off. But I know everybody's going to talk about that one play, which he could have ran it straight into the end zone. And then, you know, it's controversy around that. But guess what? I don't even want to hear Milton talk about this because he did not get in. Like you said, Tony, he struggled in that game. He'll hit some things and then he'll miss some things. And he did play loose. But overall, you're looking for him to step up and play well. I mean, he could have gotten them at least 21 points in that red zone, and they have hiccups in the red zone when they get there. But he's just not playing well. And as good as they said that, as well as they said that he played in some points, I still think that he has to step it up if this team is going to go forward. I told you that the quarterback position will be the biggest area on offense that this team struggle. And I had to give him a C- against the Green Bay Packers.
Well, you know, he got to grow up because he's making me throw up. I don't care what you say. He's been there long enough. He can play better. Your major man can't make 7 mistakes like he made. So what I'm looking at right now, when I go to the wide receivers, Gary, I got to ask you something. Yes, we may mention that he underthrew, he overthrew, but it looks as if he doesn't have, and I'm speaking of the quarterback right now, and you tell me from a wide receiver's perspective, it doesn't look like he have a real strong arm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like his out route seems like he doesn't have a lot of zip on the ball. Like you shouldn't be able to cover an out route. You really shouldn't be able to, especially when you're in the zone, and for some reason those routes are getting covered. They should never be covered, quite honestly, because they're 12 yards. And this offense are 10 yards. But like I said, overall, I know Donna gave him a C-. I probably would have gave him a C+, because there's also other players on the team, other situations where, they could have scored. Like they tried to run the ball. They did try to run the ball in the red area. They tried to give those guys 2 chances to score. multiple times and they come up with donuts, so I think the quarterback gets too much blame and they get too much credit. It's always been that way, will continue to always be that way. To me, and this is just me personally, I think honestly, they're probably the most least important person on the field.
And you know the thing about it, and you said that correctly, and the thing about it though, but when he makes that many mistakes, it makes it kind of hard. So you tell me with the receivers, I look at the receivers, okay, let me digress. I gave him a C. So we all right, and I gave the quarterback a C. But I gave the receivers a B only because of Terry. I didn't give him because of anybody else. And I want to ask you, is Brown hurt again? And I did see Terry even drop a pass. It was a low, but he should have caught it. So I gave the receivers a B because I think they are the only thing that's really keeping this as a real dangerous offense because he can run and they can catch. Right now, that's all they have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And honestly, we all know the rule of thumb is if you touch it as a receiver, you're supposed to catch it. Whether it's high, whether it's slow, whether it's right in your hands. Don't get me wrong, we've all dropped passes. I've dropped many passes in my career. But the key is if you drop a pass, you need to make up for what you dropped. And that's typically what always motivated me is if I dropped a pass that I knew I should have caught, 95% of the times in that game, I'm going to come out and I'm going to make up for those drops that I had, and right now we're not doing it. Terry said had another good game, but also he could have had a better game because he did have some drops, but it happens to everyone, but people forget about it when you win. That's why I always drop the ball. I always want to make sure that we try to win because then they forget about it and they leave you alone.
Exactly.
When you lose, though, they point everything out when you lose.
Oh
And
man, when I used
Brown
to
is out. Brown is out for 2 weeks with at least 2 weeks with knee injury.
Well, Brown, wait a minute. This explained to me, Donna, when was Brown in? Has he played this year? Oh, I'm sorry. I did jump on you, Donna.
He may be on that meal plan.
Offensive line.
He may be on that meal plan with the linebackers. I think there's a sighting with the linebackers.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony, as far as the offensive line played pretty good. I mean, they played decent. I think Rolier and Switzer has really played well, offensive line wise. The blocking was pretty good running when they did run the ball. And even some of their pass blocking was decent. But even with them, I can't give people high scores if they didn't do a lot more than, like Gary said, in trying to win this game. But the offensive line has played somewhat better, but I'm still giving them a C+ at best.
Why are you giving them a plus? If you can't make a yard, you don't deserve a plus. I gave them a C.
The class.
No, Tony, they actually
the clock. They did. Quite honestly, we controlled the game.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you did. I understand
We really control the game. I don't even know if we punted.
No, we did
No,
not
we
punt.
did not.
It was
We
the
did not
first
punt. So
time.
that tells you right there that we controlled the game. We didn't have one punt. That's never the case.
You had it 36 minutes. So basically the other team had it the other 24.
So the offensive line, that's why I gave them a C+ because they did control the line of scrimmage somewhat, but that touchdown,
It's not
that
their
final
fault
kick
that he
did not
didn't-
get.
But it's not their fault that he didn't connect on the pass.
Right.
It's not their fault. It's not their
Hey, you
fault
know what,
he
Gary?
dropped the ball.
You sound like you've been on the phone with Milton.
Well,
he
I
always
saying.
gonna come in with a story.
Tony, y'all don't know that the
We never had
listening
to
order.
punt. What can you ask? You ask the offensive line. We never
I have to give it to you, but
We never had to punt. They never gave
Tony,
up the
I'm
ball.
about to get this pin on you. I'm getting ready
They
to
never
write
gave
you up,
up the
Tony.
ball.
Gary, you know what you're saying? They didn't have to punt, but they didn't never make it anyway.
They took it down
Fourth
the
and
inches.
this-
They took
taking
it
it down
down.
and not
So
scoring.
we had a yard to get in. With 2 yards to get in.
Hey, Tony, they
shoulda
had
got in
4
multiple
fumbles.
times. We know this. Multiple times they should have got in. They cannot do any more. They're not catching it. They're not running it. They're not throwing it.
Tony,
You
they
can't
had
win.
4 fumbles.
You
They had
can't
4
win.
All
fumbles,
they can do
Tony,
is
and they
block
had
it.
6 opportunities to get it in. The offensive line helped them to push down there to get it in, but it's the quarterback with his C- I gave him that didn't do his part.
I'm okay with
No,
the
in
C-
moving
minus
forward.
C-
I gave him a C.
I'm fine
And you
with
know
that.
what? But I do have to go back and we look at it. We've been hitting the wide receivers. We've been hitting the offensive line. We've been hitting the quarterback. But I tell you what, I saw some good things in the running backs when they were playing well. But at the same time, you can't have a big fumble like Gibson had at a crucial time. And even Carter, who is not a running back, he had a great run. Then he fumbled the ball. If it weren't for the quarterback, we'd have lost that there. And then when we talking offense, before we get off of it, they had 2 starting linebackers and 2 starting safeties out. 4 of their starters were out, and we couldn't get over 7 points. Okay, well, let's drop back. Tell me about those running backs, Mill. They got to run them more.
The highlight of this week would obviously have been the running backs. We had 195 yards rushing. Now, granted, Heineke accounted for. I think he accounted for 95. Wait a minute.
95 yards running.
Wait a minute.
About 100 of them.
So let me just say this. I gave the running backs a C- as well, because as you said, they cannot fumble the ball. That for the record, let it be known, Andre Carter is a wide receiver. So yes, he did fumble. So we're gonna have to talk to the wide receiver.
But the quarterback picked up, so he didn't fumble. It didn't matter. It didn't.
Did he fumble on a catch or a run, Milt?
He fumbled on a run. He was running the ball with him. But let me just say this real quick.
Because he touched his running back and got fumbleitis. That's what.
Let me say this real quick about the running game, and it's been consistent for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think we get it written enough in the script, the offensive script, to run the ball. Does anybody remember who Jared Patterson is?
I'd like to run the ball.
I'm asking this question.
I'd like to see.
I love Antonio Gibson. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But is an 87%, 85% Antonio Gibson better than a 100% Jared Patterson? That would be my question. Because I do believe that some of these fumbles, some of these miscues with what Antonio Gibson is able to do or not do, I mean, you can't be, and now Gary's the only one that could play with his hamstrings under his arms around his neck, and he keep on playing. Okay,
it's better to have 60% of G than anything.
Well, no,
else
G, but you're not the norm. You're not the norm. We put you in a category by yourself, G.
Right.
I'm just saying.
You said that the running game has been consistent for the most part. No, they have not.
Well, now listen. They are not written into the script. What would this team look like if we devoted ourselves to running the football? It's going to free up the wide receivers.
They weren't behind. Maybe they would run the ball.
We would have 0 wins.
Wait. Donna just said a few minutes ago, the offensive line has been playing better. Well, have you seen them at first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, trying to open up holes, trying to run the ball for a yard or maybe even inches? Did you see Heineke get stuck on a quarterback's feet? So that offensive line, I'm telling you, and then we missed the big mark. They had 430 yards worth of offense.
But it doesn't matter if they
I realize it doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is I'm not going to say
they don't get touchdowns.
I agree with you 1,000%. Measurements are done.
They should have been a shotgun. Let them decide to run or
give them an option.
Give them that option.
All right, young people, let's move on that, because you know what? If you look at it, they don't run them enough. Milt, you got a great point. I don't think they put it in the script enough. It looked like they're running well, but then they stop running. Now, before we get out of this break, we got to go to a facet of the team that everybody was joking about at first. Mike, we only got a few seconds, but the tight ends to me look like they have really stepped up their game. And not only are they catching well, they're doing some good blocking as well.
Yeah, Tony, don't worry about the time, because we can take it out of the next segment, but you're not going to let Milt talk next segment? Is that what it is? No, I mean, I'm going to let all of you talk. I think I've said 4 words this first segment. I didn't remember that I could talk. But
I'm trying to get you in. You're wasting your time, Mike.
I'm feeling like I can talk again, but no. So yesterday, I have to.
Stop not telling the truth.
Yeah. Since it's tight ends we're talking about, I do have to point out Sunday, excuse me. Sunday was tight end day in the NFL. And if you look at this game, Aaron Rodgers picked apart the Washington football team with their tight ends. Robert Tonyan, 4 catches, 63 yards, a touchdown. Tight end Alan Lazard, 5 catches, 60 yards, 1 touchdown. Tight end Mercedes Lewis, 3 catches for 31 yards. 154 yards of his 274 yards were to tight ends. So it was tight ends day. You asked me about it. I'm sure you're going to get to the linebackers. We'll talk about Landon Collins, but I will talk real briefly about Bobby McCain. I think he had a good game. He is a free agent at the end of the year. And I'm just saying, when you have guys like DeShazer Everett on this team, why not trade him to Indy? They lost their safety in Sunday night's game. You could get a 3rd or a 4th for him. And then as long as we're talking about that, since we're off the offensive line, Sheriff's not going to sign with this team next year. Why don't you trade him and get a 3rd? Anyway, I give Danny Johnson a game ball for his 4 tackles. Now, he had wait a minute. He had 2. He had 2 really tough open field tackles, something that we have not seen very often. And I'm beginning to fall in love with Benjamin St. Just. I'm thinking his size, his speed.
Yes.
He was forced into action because William Jackson III was hurt. I think you got a real bonus there. I think that kid's going to be pairing him up with Cameron Curl back there. I think, goodness gracious, at corner and safety, you got a real tandem for the years to come. Cameron Curl led all the secondary with 5 solo tackles. He was in his right position finally. Overall, these guys played better. Remember 2 weeks ago, they went from an F. Then the last week they went to a D. And now, wait a minute. And now I'm giving them a C plus. But
how many points did they score?
I can't remember. But anyway, Ricky Seals-Jones. Hey, we gotta point out. Yeah,
played well. You make it seem like the secondary actually played well in that game, and they.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about them, but
I know they didn't. The ball. We had the ball more than they had the ball longer.
I know, but I wanted to talk about Ricky Seals-Jones, and I shouldn't have got off on the secondary. And I apologize. Do not hurt me. I don't get to talk much. But anyway, Ricky Seals-Jones caught 6 of 7 targets for 51 yards. Did you see that play where John took out a couple of guys? Literally took them out so that Heineke could stand erect. And then finally, the team is 2-5. Let's see a little bit of Samus Reyes. Why not? How about that? I mean, you guys
are throwing the towel in. You're throwing the towel in.
I am at 2-5.
You know what?
Logan might be back. Against the Denver Broncos, if not against the Denver Broncos. After the
I know.
So
please let me clear this up before I explode. Mike,
it could have been right now. We're going to take a break right now.
I'll go get the towel. I'll go get the towel belts and then we'll throw it in.
Let's try to talk about the defense a little bit. Even though Mike's already put the defensive backs out there and he got a point, but when we come back, I'm going to tell you about that defensive line. They showed up. We've been talking about the offense quite a bit, and even some of us talked about the defense. And I tell you what, the defense did not play the way they thought they were going to play at the beginning of the year, but they played better than they've been playing. That's what's more important to me. I saw those defensive linemen get in the backfield. I'm not going to say anything about the linebackers right now, anything else. Let's look at the defensive line. Now, I had a young man on set here, and he's one of the greatest wide receivers ever. But you know one thing, he don't know nothing about defense. He talking about he only had 2 sacks and he only had 2 tackles. That was a defensive tackle, and I tell you what, 2 sacks in a game is worth 6 points. Your whole offense only scored 7 points. Now, I look at the defensive lineman, I gave them a B. Settles played a lot better. I'm going to tell you, Young was okay at best to me because he has so much potential, but he doesn't have a game plan. You look at the other ones, everyone has to play. So to me, that defensive line deserves a B. Come on, bring it. I know you're going to bring it.
How many tackles did Young have?
I mean, what?
Tackles did Young have?
I do not recall that.
Zero.
Can I ask one question? I want to know something. This is only a defensive lineman would know this. They talked about Jonathan Allen's one of his sacks. They said that it was a stunt behind the defensive line, not on the line, but behind the defensive line. Can you explain that play to us? And why don't we see more of that?
Because they don't do that. We used to do that a lot when we was in New England, and it was 3-man line, and everybody was pretty much double. So we put a lot of sacks. Like we had one we call sink it with a trap. And what a sink it with a trap means is you 2 people on one side go down, make those linemen go to it, and the one on the other side, he comes around. That's what you're talking about, behind the line. They push him up a little bit, then he works his way around. They need to do more of that on this Washington team. So what happened was the tackles went down, the lineman went, and my guy came around. Jonathan came, if you look, he came from the outside and came in. So that all that is replacing people, and we call them games, and that's what they need to do more. I look at them as a whole. I'm still not real satisfied with their play on the other side of the line. And when I say that, they should be in Green Bay's backfield a lot more than they were. And on big plays, what I did not like, they got knocked off the ball a few times. But when you look at the overall game plan, they played pretty well. They got a B from me, but at the same time, I had to give them a B because Settles and Allen played very well. The other one showed up, but the linebackers were disappearing again. I don't even know if we had them out there. They slanted on them. Now, we've been talking about it for 6 weeks, and they just slanted on them all day. That is unacceptable. And I never see our linebackers making no big sticks in the hole. Why does every time a guy is running, it takes 2 or 3 guys, nobody, the first guy don't stop it. It's always dragging somebody. So I gave the linebackers a D.
Hey, Tony, let's go back to the defensive line for a quick second, because I have.
Are you ready to step on them? Here we go.
Yeah,
She said quick second. A quick second.
Actually did play a lot better, but they were, I got to give it to them. They did. I saw them being a lot more aggressive, but there still was some breakdowns on the defensive line as far as assignments. Coach Rivera talked about that because Aaron Rodgers got outside the pocket almost like Mahomes did the week before, but he talked about the cop technique that they've got to perfect a little bit more. What does he mean by the cop technique as far as the assignments and them staying true to their assignments, each player?
Well, you know what happens sometimes when players are known to be one thing or another, pass rusher. We had a player on our team, one of the best pass rushers ever in the league, Dexter Manley. But we also knew, and G will tell you this, we knew once he got that sack, the day was over. But I tell you what, until he got that sack, couldn't nobody stop him. Now, what he's saying is this. He would do everything to get there. And you see players doing that now, and that works with some players. But when you got a quarterback such as an Aaron Rodgers, who he has propensity to always try to get outside to his right, where he can throw the ball and he doesn't have to throw across his body. That defensive end on that side have to have his inside shoulder to that quarterback every time so he'll never get outside. They don't use that technique. That's what he's talking about. They got to stay in their lanes. The 2 insides got to stay there, make it hard for him to see. The outsides push him inside, and then everybody get their hands up. They weren't doing that. Everybody was just trying to get to the quarterback.
If everybody was watching the same game I was watching, in the early stages of that game, and pretty consistently the first, second quarter, our defensive line was actually collapsing the pocket around Aaron. They were getting to him, and he always gets uncomfortable when you get to him.
On the first drive.
But check this out. Wait a minute, Gary. Hold on. That's not what I'm saying. We're only talking about we're talking about the market improvement of the defensive line. They were aggressive, like Donna said. They were more aggressive, even though. But I will say this: the good news, they shut Jones down for 57 yards, I believe. Mm-hmm. But the bad news, Aaron Rodgers threw for 160 yards to tight ends. So we still got some work to do. And Tony, regarding the linebackers, you say you're not going to say nothing about them. Well, you know what the slogan is? If you see something, say something. They didn't say.
Well, Tony said ain't nothing to say about it.
I like that.
Mike said earlier
Milton, you're a man of the cloth.
Wait a minute, I gotta call it like it is. Integrity, gotta call it like it is.
You gotta give some props to Landon Collins. I mean, he said 7 tackles. So
some props.
I'm sorry, but he in the box. He played. I thought he played particularly well. I mean, he had some really good plays and some good pursuit. And I think that's one of the differences why this particular game was a little better defensively than the prior 2. I really believe that.
They're trying to turn him into a rover. And when I say rover, that means a person that he's not a linebacker and he's not a safety. He's a tweener. And you have to have somebody that don't mind getting up in the box and doing that. and you have to have somebody that can cover when. And they've been trying at the last few games, I guess, and it seems to be working. But Mike, you tell me about the defensive backs and the safeties. What's going on with them?
Well,
Said that
actually,
earlier.
I jumped the gun last break, but
Yeah.
but I do have, I have plenty more to offer. I do. I can't go unscathed totally. But we left off with Cameron Curl, but I did say that he led the secondary with 5 solo tackles, and we both like St. Juste. I think he's he reminds me of Fred Smoot. I mean, he's got that kind of mobility. He's a little bigger than Fred. Yeah, an inch or two more. Yeah, but I mean, he's a big kid. But I mean, overall, I thought they played particularly well. And again, Danny Johnson was coming in. He's sort of that extra nickel back, and I really liked how he played. I just thought overall, they played particularly well. I mean, I really do. And
Right, it was breakdowns in that secondary. I don't know what you were looking at.
I don't know what game you watched on that either, Mike.
I think other than I was going to ask you all this, why, historically over the years, we all know that other teams have torched the Washington football team with tight end play. What is it about tight ends? What are they seeing in the coverage? Tony, you talked about the slants, but what are they seeing, and what is this team not doing when these tight ends are running free? What's going on?
Obviously, they're looking at the game plan and they're making that happen. They see them where they may be playing cover 2, where you're pushing the guy inside, the wide receiver inside, and that safety supposed to pick him up. They probably got something to look like that, but at the same time, that tight end is delaying and slanting out. It's slanting inside, and they're never even close to them. We've seen it over and over and over again. So they're looking at the cover. So they are getting some kind of tip from the Washington offense. But it's happening all around the league. But for this team, we have been saying that over and over. They must address that, unless it's not going to happen, because as long as you can get that tight end and he can almost guarantee you anywhere from 3 to 10 yards, you're not going to win that game.
Plus, Lazard is a tight
game too. But wait a minute, but in that game, that Landon Collins played less than 40% of the plays, and they moved him to the linebacker position, so he wasn't in there a lot during that game. And then William Jackson III was out for Danny Johnson. So they did play. They didn't get beat by the big play like they normally do over the last weeks or so. But I disagree with Mike as far as them playing a lot better, because Aaron Rodgers was still picking them apart, going up fields, missed assignments. This guy's not over there. So I know that they're going to work on some more adjustments to that defense, because the secondary, it doesn't matter about what the defensive line does if they don't correct the problems in the secondary a lot more.
But Aaron Rodgers has been mentioned twice. I think he is the reigning MVP, and he's carved up a lot of individuals like that. So therefore, I know he was 7 for 8 in the first drive. That's the kind of quarterback he is. He made a lot of plays himself. He's a smart quarterback. He knew all he had to do was use the slant to get out of trouble, and he used it all day. So you expect that from an Aaron Rodgers. When you look at the whole game plan, you get a little bit happier about what you saw. You went from number 5 last year to number 30 this year. So any improvement that you got, that's what you want to see, because the defense is going to have to improve first, because if the offense can't score right away, you got to be able to hold the other offense. So it all works in charm together. And the thing, what I'm saying, we saw improvement.
Tony, they're dead last in the NFL at 31st.
Oh, you don't know that. The stats aren't out this week, Donna. Don't be getting you don't know that.
No, she's right.
Close to the bottom.
She's right. Donna is absolutely right. They're at 57. Yeah, 57.8%. That's the worst of any team since 1991.
You mean that y'all couldn't find some other stat?
Hey, Tony.
I did.
Why is that stat so
yeah, they're 29th in yards allowed. There's another stat. They're 32nd in points allowed. Okay, that's your defense.
Giving up 30 per game.
Where's our offensive points scored? Well, I'm gonna tell you
probably like 15.
All right. So what I'm saying is, right now we are all running out the panic room, pulling our hair and everything, because we are afraid of it being something that's happening. But at the same time, it's still early enough in the season that they can improve. So anytime you see a little improvement, I know we get up here and we dog them because that's our job. But at the same time, I want to see them win. I want to see them get better. So if I see something like that, like the preacher said, see it, say it. I'm saying we're taking a break. Well, we still have one Hopkins here. They got rid of one in Washington this weekend. One's been moaning all week about it, and I'm just waiting for her to get an opportunity to talk about the special teams. I know she'll be dogging them because her boy is not there anymore, but you got to do what's best for the team. So when I talk about the team, I'm not real happy with them either. Milt, you tell me, especially this is the first time that they didn't make any big plays and they get a kick block. Was that because Donna's cousin wasn't there, or was it just a bad block?
No, as you said, Tony, we got rid of one Hopkins, and I believe we got another one on the way. But so let me just say, two Mars against the performance. We had the fumble by DeAndre Carter. We had the missed field goal by Blewett. And let me just say, kudos to Blewett. His first time out, he makes a field goal, and it was right down the middle. He didn't seem to be, worked up about it. So that was a good thing. So I'll give the special team C- for their performance. I wanted to give them a B-, but until you mentioned that fumble, we cannot lay the ball on the ground. We're not that kind of team that we can lay the ball on the ground and expect to recover from that. So this week, and two things, we didn't have to punt this week. Tress Wade got a week off. And so even with that, we give him a C-.
Hey, Milton, he comes out the first kick, and he gets it blocked. And then Coach Rivera said, we ain't going back to him no more because we don't have confidence in him. And it wasn't that he just missed. It was blocked because he had no elevation on that first kick.
I was heartbroken when that decision was made, even if you can say I was trying to go for more points. And I am a Coach Rivera fan. I believe in what he is doing. But you got a new man on the block. He has inked the contract. He is kicking a field goal. It is his moment. You just got rid of Donna's cousin and replaced him. And this is his big moment. And they said, no, let's go 4th and 3. Are you kidding me? And so anyway, I think just from my view of the game, the trajectory was fine. I thought the blocking was off. I had a breakdown in the line, in the middle of the line, not on the side, on the middle. And so he got it blocked. So
hey, Milton, you can spread it any way you want to on that piece of bread. It still was blocked.
Listen, Donna, that last name runs deep. I can tell.
I'm just
but you know
saying.
What? and I was even also disappointed because they have been creating, good things for our offense, and they didn't do that on Sunday.
Right.
And it was just a disappointment because we've come to depend on that. So when I look at this whole team right now, Mike, I think what you're saying, you do start to worry because I think we all had such high expectations and it hasn't transpired and we don't see improvement. That's why I'm looking at defensive line. I got to say they improved. They did improve. I look at the tight ends. I got to say they improved. You look at the offensive line, and you may not like it, but they have improved even without their main people in there. So as long as you're seeing improvement, wide receivers, same wide receiver doing the same thing. And the other ones, tight ends doing better. So, let's start looking at more positive stuff. So what we'll do right now is the next time out, I'm going to take Milton off the show, get that homer off of there. I'm going to see Donna, we're going to get Donna an apple and a road map so she can go find her cousin. And me and Mike and Gary going to do the show.
Bringing him back.
But tell me what you got to think about the special teams.
I mean, I'm not sure that I would have cut Dustin Hopkins in the middle of the season. I know that it's been a problem, but they stood behind him. The one thing that they said that was consistent was he got a quick elevation. He had a really, the first strike of the ball was a very strong one and it was high. And I don't even remember the last time he had one blocked. And so I don't think that I would have done it then. I mean, to put all that on that kid saying that the air went out of the game last week before because he missed a field goal. Please, Coach Rivera. The air was out of that game long before that. So
I'll ask you one question, Mike.
Yeah.
Did he get paid that week?
We don't know, do we?
Tuesday.
You know he did.
Tuesday, I think it was the day.
You know he
I think
did.
what I was
Might be waiting for that
disappointed more
check.
so, what I was disappointed more so about, I mean, he got that block, but the return game that had been really solid in past games was missing out of that game in Green Bay. They didn't have good field position as far as special teams, as far as setting that up. So that's probably what the consistent part of the return game was missing from what it had been in the previous games.
Donna, you got a good point there. I would say going back to DeAndre Carter, he is a gamer. He reminds me a little bit. Now, I'm just saying this. Don't go there with me, Gary. I'm just saying this as an example. He seemed to be on his returns intentional about not being tackled. And you saw that evident in B. Mitch, and you saw it evident in Garrett. It wasn't about, okay, I'm going to get what I can and go down. It was looking to take, and he runs like that. This past week, they averaged 25 yards. He averaged 25 yards a return. And if you think about it, even with that low return yardage, they still spent a good bit of time in Green Bay territory. So it was a mixed number there, but he's going to break another one before this year is out. Mark my word on that one. He'll break another one before this year is out because he's intentional about it.
Well, Tony, it's that time again for our segment. I'm right and you all are wrong. And our question for the panel today, we're talking about the wide receivers. Who's the best all-time wide receiver? They are retired in the NFL. This is your list. Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, and Larry Fitzgerald.
Also, my boy don't get no play, huh?
Tony, you're not on the clock yet. Mike, you're on the clock.
I'm mad, but my boy ain't on there.
I would say just for the few times that I've had a chance to really hang around and talk with Gary Clark, I know how much he admires Jerry Rice, and there were times when Gary had better numbers than Rice did. But just overall, Rice is the only receiver to catch 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl, which he did in Super Bowl 24, and then again in 29. He holds the Super Bowl careers records for receptions: 33 yards, 589.
Hey, Mike, your time is up. Tony, you're on the clock.
Hey, Donna, who did Mike choose?
I'm going to make this quick.
Gary
It's not going to
Rice.
take long. The reason I mentioned Gary Clark's name, if you go back and you look in the records right now, during the time when Jerry Rice was at his finest, Gary Clark was catching more balls than he was. It's just that they happened to go to the Super Bowl on days that Gary and them didn't. So I'm not saying this because G is on the show. I'm saying this because it's a fact. But if you take that away, yeah, Jerry Rice, you would have to give him because he was on 4 Super Bowls or 3 or whatever it is. But at the same time, they're going to have to start looking at the individual. Just because G's not in there don't mean he wasn't the best at that. That's my thought, and I'm sticking with it.
And
anybody on the show
clock.
that don't want to be with it, y'all got a chance to leave.
Tony, you're on the clock. Milton, you're on the clock.
I'm on the clock.
But Milton's on the clock.
It'd have to be hard for me to go against what Tony or Mike said. I think Jerry Rice, pound for pound, for what he's done, I think he would be the best of all time. But as Tony said, and not because he's on the show, I watched a lot of this with my own eyes. Gary has to be in that same conversation with no questions about it, in my opinion. And I would say that whether I'm on the show. In fact, Tony, you said I won't be on the show next week, right?
Hey, Milton, you're off the clock, and Gary,
You got another segment to
the
pull
clock.
it together.
Hey, Milton, Tony and Milton, you off the clock. Gary, you're on the clock.
Well, I'm gonna send all you guys checks that I promised so y'all would say that about me, but thank you guys for that. But out of the category of the people y'all gave me, I'd have to go with Jerry. He's the best I've ever kind of seen at that. In between him, not counting Art and Ricky, of course, because those are the best I've ever seen. But Jerry Rice, hands down, when it comes to it, stats don't lie.
Yeah, man.
Don't. Only time I beat Jerry, honestly, in reception was my rookie year. That's the only time that I had more receptions in the season than Jerry Rice did. And
but overall, you had the numbers just like he did.
I mean, honestly, I was second best to Jerry in terms of stats. Like when you take my 8 years in Washington, Jerry's 8 years in San Francisco, They were. I mean, that's why when it came to our contracts, he was the number 1 paid receiver in the NFL. I was the number 2 paid receiver in the NFL because his numbers were better. His numbers were better than mine. So I told my agent, I said, you have to pay me. I have to be the 2nd highest paid receiver in the league. Notice I didn't say the 1st.
Well, you know what? All of you all are right, because as I said, those were just the top 5 that they listed, but there was a lot of great other receivers on down the list. So Tony, it's back into your hands right now.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, I really do. We have to take a break now, but gee, that was good of you to say, and I know why you know, you're the kind of guy to say that. I'd never say anybody better than me, and they may have had 100 more sacks than me. I can't give it up, man. So I
wasn't on the list, Tony. I wasn't on the list.
Yeah. But right, and who made the list? That's all I want to know.
Donna made the list.
It's not my list.
Donna made the list.
Hey, Milton,
that's why Gary wasn't on it.
Tony and Milton, y'all are not on the clock.
Oh, we're not on the clock.
To look at this, when we talk about stats, we want you to look at the next segment at the stat of picks. And we'll see who the real star is on that. There's some people coming up, some people going down. At the same time, some people never been in the game. We'll be back in a moment.
Well, hey, I'm all down for the football team, but you know, especially being back around the guys, it just brings back all of those great memories. You know, for me, I think a lot about my rookie season in 1990, being in that locker room with Monty Coleman and Wilbur Marshall and Kurt Gouveia, and you know, Darryl Green and all the great leaders that were on that team. We picked up some speed in 90 and then carried it over into 1991, which was just another special season. I just remember there being lots of laughs, lots of food, and lots of wins. And it's so good to see these guys back tonight. And it just, like I said, it just brings back up all those great memories.
We hope you enjoyed that little bit of history we had there. Andre Collins, he's been coming on our show for years and years, and he always have been such a great, matter of fact, I think we better get him back on. And we will have a special alumni show, November the 10th. Come and see what you see. You'll see a lot of the old players. Matter of fact, we were there trying to recruit to get something to get the numbers back from this new group, but at the same time, we can't do that. But Mike, that would be headlines if we got him to come back and play. It would be worse than it is, but you said there's a lot of headlines going on around the league.
Yeah, we try to keep on top of it, Tony. The big news just happened, and that's Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams will not be playing Thursday night. He's on the COVID reserve list. Is that going to be a big deal, do you all think?
Oh, it may not be. I wish he was not playing the other night against the Redskins. But anytime that happens, and the way it's happening this year, Mike, everybody's losing key players. So I tell you, that's the one thing that everybody in the league, that's going to happen. It'll make a difference, but as long as they got Rodgers, they got a chance.
Donna, the Chiefs, the Bears, and 49ers are among the NFL teams that should be panicking most after a rough week 7. What say you?
I think even more so, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs that have, you know, their record, got a losing record. And it's not just the defense that's struggling right now, but it's Patrick Mahomes, who got knocked out of that game, but he's been struggling since that Baltimore game. And that's to me is the team beyond Chicago and the other ones is that Kansas City and what they look like right now.
Yeah. The Broncos acquired linebacker Kenny Young from the Rams in a trade, and that was to basically, they have a very banged up linebacking core, and now all of a sudden Washington's going to face a pretty good linebacker, and that's going to bolster their linebacking core. That's not a good thing.
I think they'll be better on defense just by the addition of Young. But I don't think Denver's problems on defense as much as it is on offense. They still look in disarray on offense. So it'll be a better defense, but I think the problem still rests on the offense.
I think big news really for the Browns. I mean, they base so much on their running game, but they're going to be welcoming Nick Chubb back into the fold. He'll be practicing this week, but Baker Mayfield's still going to be absent. Is this where the Cleveland Browns maybe take a step forward, but probably in neutral? Anybody?
Well, have they said Baker's not going to play for sure?
He's got a shoulder problem, and he was absent from practice, Tony, early in the week.
They've got Case Keenum. They'll be fine.
Yeah,
they'll be fine. They got weapons around him, so he'll be fine.
I don't know about you all, but when I watched Case Keenum play, I just thought to myself, my gosh, how did this guy get out of our fold? I mean, he had a wonderful game. I mean, even though it wasn't what they wanted, I mean, I thought he played particularly well.
I got a question for Mr. Clark there. And
Yeah.
speaking of Browns, is the Browns, Beckham, is he through? That's all I'm going to ask you.
Good question.
I mean, he's been hurt. He's been Hollywood. He's wearing watches on the field. But he hasn't really played ball in 2 or 3 years now.
I mean, it appears that way. I mean, he's a great talented athlete. And then it all comes back to your pain threshold. I mean, if he has a weak pain threshold, then he could be done. But if he has a high pain threshold, then he won't be. And then a player with that type of ability that he does have, hopefully you get back to your roots, you become that player again that we all loved and saw when he first came into the league. But sometimes once you start reading your headlines, sometimes that can be a problem.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's what, and it would be better if he could keep his mouth shut and stay out of giving money to players or doing this and doing that, and just try to get well and get back to where he was. Speaking of that, fans, we didn't forget the picks now. We just didn't want to make you guys sick to your stomach right now. When we do these picks the next segment, you will see exactly what we mean.
Well, as Breast Cancer Awareness Month comes to an end, we had an opportunity to catch up with a group that's impacting the cancer community.
When it comes to breast cancer, it's all about all of us coming together to meet the challenge to impact the cancer community. It's about helping women now and inspiring hope for those who are affected by breast cancer. So we took to the streets with Dove for Love in their first breast cancer walk.
I started Dove for Love 8 years ago. I was diagnosed in 2011. I wanted to give back, so I don't like to talk about breast cancer all the time. The only time I want to talk about breast cancer is in October. That's it. And when I get my mammogram and have an anxiety attack, that's it. But giving back, that's my way of giving back to breast cancer. Dove for Love is about helping the homeless people, homeless children, anyone in need, and mainly breast cancer survivors.
It was beautiful for the cause, but I'm tired. But that was all right. It was a good workout. Happy to be here. It's always amazing to be able to walk, yet alone be healthy enough to walk, and then to walk for a cause is always amazing. So the fact that my sister-in-law Colette wanted to put this together, it was a no-brainer. Give till it hurts, and then come out and have some fun with it.
Man, it's such a great cause. I know so many strong women that have beat breast cancer, and I just wanted to be a part of it, show my support, show our solidarity. And I mean, it was a great cause, healthy, got my workout in today. So it was a great cause. I'm glad to be here.
I think it's about a community effort that everyone needs to be involved, because it's not just a single issue situation. It's not just women. Women affect all of us. So as an African American community, it's very important that we partner up and make sure we support our members who go through these issues and support them any way that we can, and know that it's not just someone fighting alone, and we're all fighting it together.
Hey guys, you know what? Most people don't realize that breast cancer affects even men. Men get breast cancer. So you're out here today walking for this great cause as Breast Cancer Awareness Month comes to an end. Talk to me a little bit about being out here today.
All right, well, being out here today, again, because of the cause. My wife is a breast cancer survivor, and she's the one in charge of this situation today, the Dove for Love Foundation, just to give back to breast cancer survivors.
And you are a testimony to all these people who came out here to walk today that you can beat breast cancer.
Early detection saves lives. Going to get your mammograms every year will save your life. Period.
And you walked the Woodrow Wilson Bridge.
And I'm tired too.
But you're in it for the cause because you are a survivor, a winner, a conqueror.
It's a lot, but this walk is donated to Angela Lorraine Berry. She was diagnosed and she did not survive, and I miss her every day. She was my neighbor and we became friends, and I didn't know that she knew my mother. When we became friends, I didn't know that my mother knew her. I should have known she knew her, but this walk is donated to her, to my cousin Denise. I got a lot of friends that's going through chemo right now, Tracy. It's so many people, I can't name them all. But breast cancer is not only my fight, it's all of y'all fight. Donated money, everybody here donated. Some nurses at my job donated, they're sitting on the couch. Oh, I like this. Hello. So everybody here donated. Some nurses at Washington Hospital Center donated, doctors donated, and we ended up donating, we ended up with $1,000 to give to Donna for her organization.
And Tony, as she said, that this is not just her fight or my fight, but this is all of our fights to get together.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Well, it's time for me to be shamed. And since I can't even say anything in my defense, because for so many years I was at the top, and now the last 2 or 3 years I've been at the bottom. And not only at the bottom, I've been shamed across the nation for these. For people in California who call me and say, I saw your show. Do you need help with the picks, Mike? I mean, this is embarrassing. Why couldn't you have just let me put the guest on there? Anyway, enough about that. So let's talk about the picks.
But you haven't paid us yet.
You wait a minute. We all owe somebody for last year, not just me. I've been waiting.
Gary owed me from 2 years ago.
You owe me from about 10.
There was nothing from 2
All right, everybody. We got Carolina. Let's start with you, Donna. Carolina at Atlanta. Does Carolina get right this week?
Wow, Atlanta played well the week before, but I'm still going to probably have to go with Carolina.
Okay, you have two teams that are in total disarray. Although Chicago was 3-3 before they got really trounced the other night. How about San Francisco at Chicago? Who do you like in that one, Gary? I mean, their season's on the line, San Francisco.
They're playing in Chicago.
Yeah.
Probably gonna go with Chicago.
Yeah. Jacksonville at Seattle. What do you think of that one, Milton? That is, he's not back, so Jacksonville might have a shot.
Well, before the beginning of the season, this would have been a no-brainer. But, with the quarterback situation the way it is in Seattle, I'm actually going to go with Jacksonville.
Yeah. Okay, Dallas at Minnesota, Tony. Come on, this is
Dallas. I'm going Dallas all the way. Minnesota is an up and down team. They're doing better, but Dallas is the deal.
All right. Well, it's going to probably be Case Keenum this weekend. Pittsburgh at Cleveland, Tony. What do you think?
I'm going Cleveland. I'm going with the home. They're getting Chubb back. Chubb is he's the difference maker of that team. Pittsburgh always have problem with teams that run the ball. And as we go out of this show, Mike, you'll be in last next week again. I'll be in front of Donna. And like Michael Jordan said, you must expect great things of yourself before you can do them. In a minute.